Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Drugs Milan Unboxing. Before we begin, if you like what I'm saying or my analysis, please give me a thumbs up and please click on the subscribe if you're a fan of the channel. It will help me to keep doing what I'm doing. We've had a bit of a disappointing year in boxing so far, lots of false starts and stops. We had Anthony Joshua Tyson Fury on only to be off again. Then the rubber match with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury that got postponed. At least we still get to see that again. To put salt in the wounds, we have Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence Jr. next weekend falling through. Luckily, there's a replacement in Yordenis Ugas, but that is not the same. And it seems now also a fight that South Africans have some interest in, the IBF Junior Lightweight World Title fight between Kenichi Ogawa and Shavkat Rakhimov also hit a postponement. So in and among all that doom and gloom, at least we've got one little beacon of hope this weekend, and let's hope it is not a snore fest and that it delivers the action. It's an interesting blend of styles. I think it could possibly deliver the action, but it is another sort of a compromise fight, but still a good one. Riel Casimero, the WBO bantamweight champion of the world, he was scheduled to face Nonito Donaire. And that fight got cancelled, whether it was about drug testing protocols or Casimero saying something about Donaire's wife. I can't believe it's the latter. I mean, this is boxing, people say what they want to say. But anyway, originally Casimero was slated to face Rigondeaux, Guillermo Rigondeaux, before he was going to face Donaire. But now Rigondeaux is back in this weekend. So on Saturday in Carson, California, we will see whether the former brilliant Cuban amateur, two-time Olympic gold medalist Rigondeaux can win a world title in the bantamweight division. He's sort of doing it along the lines of Nonito Donaire did it. He became world champion as a junior featherweight, where he basically stayed. Went up 2 divisions to junior lightweight to face Vasyl Lomachenko, where he retired after he couldn't do much with Lomachenko. Quitted his corner. After 7 rounds, that's still the only loss on his record, Guillermo Rigondeaux. But he's getting on in years. Now, the Cuban boxer, it's hard when you're a double Olympic gold medalist because the expectations are sky high. So it's hard to live up to that. Vasyl Lomachenko more or less did, but Rigondeaux, for any other professional fighter, he would have had a successful career. Became WBA and WBO junior featherweight champion of the world, as well as recognition by the ring. And he mild upset Nonito Donaire when Donaire was streaking and beating everybody. He took him to school, gave him a boxing lesson. But strangely enough, he was punished for that and not rewarded. He had another fight with top rank, I think, against Joseph Agbeko. And since then, he's been in the wilderness. Nobody wanted to fight him. He couldn't get the big fights. Eventually, he was forced to take a fight at a higher weight against Lomachenko. Frampton, Scott Quigg, none of these guys wanted to fight Rigondeaux. And there's also a style issue. He's got this very defensively minded, if you can call it the Cuban style, I'm not sure, but there's a lot of Cubans that fight like that, where it is hit and not get hit. He doesn't really stand in the pocket and engage. He's a points fighter, and that didn't go over too well with American fans. So he's been plagued by inactivity as well. Now, we've got Riel Casimero. Now, he's a guy who's been on the road. He's won on the road. He's a freeweight world champion, and he's running really good momentum. He's got a record of 30 wins, 4 losses, 21 knockouts in among those 30 wins. He was IBF junior flyweight champion. Before it, he was WBO interim champion. Challenged our own South Africa's Muruti Mtalani years back for the IBF flyweight crown. Was stopped. It was his only stoppage. Lost. Won the IBF junior flyweight title after that, and stayed champion for quite a while before moving up in weight, and then eventually won on his second try the IBF flyweight title by beating Amnat Runrong in Asia, and that is not an easy feat at all to do. Very impressive, and eventually he gave up that title to move to bantamweight. Suffered an upset loss to world class, but not a guy who really gets over at the world title level. Jonas Sultan lost a surprise decision there. but he's been riding, I think it's a 6-fight knockout streak since, and he is on quite a roll. He beat Zolani Tete, upset him, devastating when stopped Zolani Tete in 3 rounds to take the WBO bantamweight world title, his 3rd weight division world title, and he defended it in an impressive fashion last year against Duke Micah, also turning the trick there in the 3rd round. Now, Casimero is a very awkward sort of customer. He can sometimes be wild, but that makes him unorthodox. He's got that in and out style. He likes to fight with his hands sort of by his waist, uses a body sway to avoid punches, and then he jumps in from awkward angles. He's got a very dangerous right, which he doesn't always throw as a straight punch. It's mostly used as an uppercut to the body, or a sort of a slash uppercut hook to the head, to the temple. That's what he Tete in. And he also has a left uppercut. He's not a big jabber. He likes using these punches from unorthodox angles. He stays away. I mean, he closes the gap very quickly, and he comes in at the awkward angle, and then he punches you, and he can hit. The thing of Casimero is, when you get hit by him, you stay hit. He caught Tete with a shot. Tete got up, but he just couldn't find his legs, and he stopped Tete moments later. Duke Micah was doing well for the 1st round or so, then he caught him, and Micah was just out on his feet. He never could gather himself, and he was eventually stopped. So he's got very heavy hands, Casimero does. It comes short punches on the inside from unorthodox angles. That's what Casimero is good at. You don't see him coming always, or expect him coming, and when you get hit by Casimero, you tend to stay hit. Now Guillermo Rigondeaux, very crafty southpaw. He, as of late, his last 2 fights against Julio Saya, he was behind on points. He left his usual defensive style at home, and he stood toe to toe with Saya for some reason or another, and he got tagged hard, and it looked like he was rocked a couple of times by Saya. He fought his kind of fight. But that's a thing that Rigondeaux also does. He gives you a false sense of security, and he lures you into a trap, and that he usually does with his left hand from the southpaw stance. Throws it as a straight punch, and sometimes as an uppercut or a hook as well. But he nailed Saya with one of those, knocked him out. Saya got up, but he was in no shape to continue. His next fight, he won a split decision. That was in February of last year, because Rigondeaux will have to be able to shake off more than a year's worth of inactivity. So he also made very hard work against Laborio Solis. He stood in front of Solis in the beginning, got tagged a couple of times. Why he does that, I don't know. Maybe he's starting to conserve energy. Maybe he wants to be more exciting. Maybe he wants to get a feel for his opponent's power. But I think he sort of tries to draw his opponent into that false sense of security. And then he played that usual walk-away routine. You know, it's not on his toes. He doesn't bounce around and waste too much energy, but he walks away. He sort of walks this way to the ring, that way to the ring, step this way, that way, and he just avoids contact, which the crowd doesn't like, and which promoters like Bob Arum doesn't like. If the crowd doesn't like it, obviously they have to sell him. But had all the boos in the crowd. But then when he sat down on his punches, when Solis jumped in, nailed him once again with a left uppercut, scored a knockdown, had him hurt at another stage in the fight, and that was enough to get him over by a split decision. So that's a thing of Guillermo Rigondeaux. He is a defensive master when he chooses to be. As of late, in his last few fights, he got hit a lot until he gets back on his legs. But at some point, you have to decide to engage. So there are people that feel Guillermo Rigondeaux is going to give Riel Casimero a boxing lesson. I think Casimero must be the favorite. To me, there's a couple of things in this fight. The momentum is definitely on Riel Casimero's side. He's streaking, he's looking good, and he wants to get that fight against the top dog of a bantamweight division, Naoya Inoue, or even before that, Nonito Donaire, all Filipinos showdown like it was originally going to be, Donaire having won the WBC title. But there are bigger things down the road for Casimero. If Rigondeaux can defeat Casimero, he might get another fight with Donaire or even Naoya Inoue, but I don't think the powers of B want Casimero in the other corner because he's a more action-packed fighter. So I don't think Guillermo Rigondeaux can stay away. You know, the rounds that Rigondeaux sometimes win like that, he takes all his opponent's offense away and then maybe throws a jab or maybe a single straight left or a single left uppercut, and for the rest of the time he plays keep away while his opponent is catching up, and then he squeaks around like that. But I don't think he's going to get these kind of rounds. They will like the aggression of Casimero. So Rigondeaux is going to have to do something more than he did against Laborio Solis. He's going to have to do more than steal nothing rounds and clip Casimero here and there. Another thing that Rigondeaux can't afford to do is stand there for the first couple of rounds and take shots against a guy like Casimero. You know, he's got a good chin, so Solis couldn't budge him. Saya sort of looked like he rocked him there for a while, but he wasn't anywhere close to getting stopped. But Casimero, I think, can. Casimero is a better puncher than those two. So for Guillermo Rigondeaux to pull the upset here, he's going to have to use his jab. He's a taller guy. He does have a reach advantage. So he needs to use his jab against Casimero and hit Casimero to the body. How you take a guy away that's applying pressure, hit him to the body, keep him at the end of your jab, and step around him. That is what Rigondeaux will have to do. And also, as Casimero is the kind of guy, when he jumps forward, if you can time him correctly, Rigondeaux might be able to catch him with those well-timed lefts, because Casimero can be caught down the pipe, but he's a difficult guy to jab. Zolani Tete was much bigger than Guillermo Rigondeaux, and Casimero, you know, he kind of took that jab away. Tete had a false sense of security, or just tapping him with a jab, not landing cleanly, but just sort of grazing him, and Casimero came around, stepped around the jab and attacked from an awkward angle and nailed Tete like that. So Rigondeaux is going to have to produce a performance of his career. Now what worries me about Rigondeaux, he's 40 years old or 41 years old, not sure if it's 40 or 41, he's definitely 40, so he's past the 40 mark. That's old in the lower weight divisions. He hasn't been active, so the fact that he's been inactive for more than another year is not unusual for him, but I think it could hurt his timing against a guy like Casimero. So Casimero has been fighting, Casimero has been knocking guys out. He's the younger fighter, but he's also a very seasoned pro. If it happened a few years earlier, I would have Rigondeaux a clear favourite to beat Riel Casimero, but now I think it's a little bit late in life. And I think Casimero's got the momentum behind him. He's going to have to be on top of Rigondeaux from the first round. If Rigondeaux gets off to that first slow start, capitalize on it, get ahead, or stop him. Now, what do I think is going to happen here? Nobody has stopped Guillermo Rigondeaux except for Vasil Lomachenko, and that was a retirement in the corner. I think Rigondeaux is going to try, but I don't think if he's going to stand in front of Casimero in the first few rounds and try and exchange with him like he did with Saya, I think that's a bad idea. I think Casimero might get him out early if that is what he's going to do. But I think Rigondeaux is cleverer than that. I think he's going to do this sort of jab, step away, counter punch kind of game with Casimero, which I think will be a lot of will make the fight struggle to get going, you know. But I think eventually, I do think it will become a sort of a shootout. I do think Rigondeaux might nail Casimero once or twice with that left. Casimero you can hit, but I don't think he's going to get Casimero out of there, because Rigondeaux hasn't shown that killer instinct. When he had Solis in trouble, you know, he went after him a little bit and then he slacked off and settled into his punch and walk away rhythm again. So I don't think Guillermo Rigondeaux is going to get Casimero out of there if he hurts him, and that is I think what will hurt him in the fight, because Casimero will carry on, and I think Casimero will be able to hit Rigondeaux. Everybody in his last fights have been able to hit him. Rigondeaux, you can hit him with a short left hook. He's susceptible to that, and that's a punch that Casimero can throw very well when he comes with a right hand. So Casimero must just be Casimero the way he was against Zolani Tete, the way he was against Duke Micah, and I think that will be enough. I don't think Guillermo Rigondeaux will be able to stay away and just outbox him. He's not going to squeak a close decision here, and I think he knows it. So I think it will be a tactical fight. where each is trying to land the bomb, and I think Rigondeaux will catch Casimero coming in once or twice, but Casimero will also nail Rigondeaux, maybe starting with a left hook, and at some point one of those right hands is going to hurt Rigondeaux, and at that point either Casimero stops Rigondeaux and the referee intervenes at some point, or Rigondeaux just pulls out in the corner like he did against Lomachenko. But it's a very interesting fight to see if an old master can pull it off. But in the end, Casimero is active, he's younger, the momentum is behind him. Rigondeaux has only got that vast pedigree and his slickness and cleverness, which I think has faded a little bit by now at the age of over 40, although he's a very well preserved 40. But I've got to go for Casimero. So I think Riel Casimero is going to stop Guillermo Rigondeaux somewhere around round 7 is sort of what I'm thinking. There in the middle rounds, I expect Riel Casimero to break through and then call for maybe the fight with Donita Donaire, which we all wanted to see, or the fight with Naoya Inoue to unify more bantamweight belts. But let's see what happens, and because as Doug Fisher says, that's why they fight the fights. So I'm looking forward to see this very interesting blend of style matchups with a lot of question marks hanging over Guillermo Rigondeaux's head. But yeah, that's it. So until we see each other again, please remember to keep those gloves up.